The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the quiet suburban road, its golden light dancing on the hood of a stalled minivan. Steam curled from beneath it, a thin wisp against the sky. Rachel stood at the front of the vehicle, hands trembling slightly as she held them over the engine like that might magically fix whatever had gone wrong. Her work scrubs clung to her back with sweat, and her hair, once neatly tied, had loosened into a mess that mirrored her mood. The silence was unnerving, no passing cars, no cell signal, and no charger for the dead phone sitting uselessly on the passenger seat. In the back of the van, her 6-year-old son, Liam, sat quietly, clutching his worn dinosaur plushie, his eyes wide with uncertainty. She tried to breathe, tried to think. It had already been a brutal day, her double shift at the hospital had drained her to the bone, and now, this. Her savings account was as empty as the gas tank had nearly been before she stopped here. The anxiety buzzed in her chest, a familiar tightness she knew too well. She looked up and down the road. Still no one. Just when she thought she'd have to walk miles with her son in tow, a faint rumble interrupted the stillness. A dusty pickup truck slowed as it approached, its tires crunching the gravel shoulder before it came to a stop beside her van. Rachel's shoulders tensed. As the driver's door opened, she instinctively stepped in front of the open hood, protective. Out stepped a tall black man in his early 30s, wearing a plain t-shirt and jeans smudged with grease. His hair was tied back, and his hands were stained with oil and work. His eyes, though, were warm. Gentle. Human. "You okay?" he asked, his voice even, kind. Rachel hesitated. Strangers weren't always safe. But something in his tone, in the way he kept a respectful distance and glanced toward Liam in the back seat with soft concern, disarmed her. She sighed, defeated. "My car died." "I don't know why," she said, barely holding back tears. "And I don't have a phone charger or money for a tow. I don't know." He nodded, already walking slowly toward the front of her van. "Mind if I take a look?" She paused, then stepped aside. "Please. If you know anything about cars, I'd be grateful." He popped the hood with practiced ease, studied the engine, then leaned in and started checking connections with a familiarity that only came from years of experience. Rachel watched, uncertain, as Liam peered out the window, curious but calm for the first time that day. "Name's Marcus," the man said, not looking up. "I work at a garage a few miles from here." "You're lucky, I think it's just a loose battery cable." Rachel didn't know it yet, but this brief, unassuming moment, this stranger stopping on a lonely road, was the beginning of something much bigger than a car repair. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in streaks of amber and rose, as Marcus leaned deeper into the engine, sleeves rolled up, fingers working with quiet confidence. The fading light caught the sheen of sweat on his forehead, but he didn't seem to notice. Rachel stood nearby, arms crossed, not out of defensiveness now, but more to hold herself together. Every few seconds, she glanced at Liam in the back seat. He was watching Marcus intently, his little hands pressed to the window like he was seeing a superhero in action. Marcus spoke without looking up. "It's a good van. Just needs a little love. This battery cable's been hanging on by a thread." Rachel gave a soft, tired laugh. "Kind of like me." That made him glance up, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Life ever give you a break?" "Not in a while," she said. "I'm a nurse. 2 jobs. Lost my husband to cancer 3 years ago. It's been just me and Liam ever since." His hands paused for a moment on the cable. "That's heavy. I'm sorry." She nodded, the words easier now that they'd started flowing. "Some days are fine. Others feel like I'm walking through cement. And then stuff like this happens, and her voice cracked. She looked away, embarrassed. Marcus tightened the last bolt and stood up slowly, wiping his hands on a rag from his pocket. "I get it. Lost my mom when I was 10. My grandfather raised me. Taught me everything I know about fixing things, cars, people, life. He used to say, always stop for someone on the side of the road. You never know if you're fixing more than just a car. Rachel blinked, caught off guard by how deeply that landed. She studied his face. Not just kind, anchored. Someone who had been through storms and still stood tall. You do this a lot, she asked. Stop for strangers. He shrugged. Enough. Doesn't take much to show up for someone. From inside the van, Liam tapped the glass. Rachel turned to see him giving Marcus a tentative thumbs up. Marcus smiled wide, walked over, and opened the back door. Hey there, little man, he said. You've got a cool mom. Liam nodded shyly. Are you a mechanic? Something like that, Marcus said. Wanna help me test the engine? Rachel watched them together, Liam's smile slowly breaking through the clouds he'd been carrying all day. Marcus reached into the van, turned the key, and the engine roared back to life. There we go, he said, triumphant. Rachel didn't say anything at first. Her throat tightened. This wasn't just kindness, it felt like grace. I don't know how to thank you, she said finally. Marcus looked at her with quiet sincerity. You already did. In that brief, grease-streaked twilight, the air felt different. Warmer. Not just because the car was fixed, but because something unseen had been repaired, too. Night had fallen by the time the van rumbled back onto the road, headlights cutting through the soft dusk. Rachel drove with both hands on the wheel, still a bit shaken, but now smiling more than she had in weeks. Liam sat in the back seat, buzzing with quiet excitement. Every few minutes, he glanced at Marcus in the passenger seat like he couldn't believe this stranger had somehow become part of their evening. Rachel had insisted on giving him a ride back into town, though she could tell Marcus would have happily walked. That wasn't how she was raised, and after what he'd done, the least she could offer was a lift and maybe a small thank you. They passed a glowing sign that read, Miller's Ice Cream, homemade since 1958. Liam pressed his face against the window, eyes lighting up. Rachel caught the look in the rearview mirror and laughed softly. You hungry? She asked, glancing at Marcus. Or. I don't know, would ice cream be weird? Marcus chuckled. Ice cream's never weird. That place any good? The best, Rachel said. And I owe you a cone. Least I can do. A few minutes later, they sat at a worn picnic table under string lights that flickered like lazy fireflies. Liam had a towering swirl of vanilla and sprinkles that was melting faster than he could eat it. Rachel had chocolate. Marcus went with mint chip. The kind of simple decision that suddenly felt sweet and grounding in the cool night air. Rachel leaned on her elbow, watching Liam chase a napkin caught in the breeze. He doesn't warm up to people easily. But he hasn't stopped smiling since you touched the engine. Marcus grinned, taking a slow bite of his cone. He's a good kid. Reminds me of me at that age. Quiet, curious. Doesn't miss a thing. He hasn't had a male figure in his life for a while, Rachel said, her voice softening. His dad was kind. Strong. Liam adored him. When he died, Liam stopped talking for almost a year. Marcus nodded, understanding in his eyes. Grief changes everything. But so does hope. Rachel studied him in the soft glow of the lights, this man who had appeared out of nowhere, fixed her car without expecting anything in return, and now sat here gently filling a silence that had been echoing in their lives for too long. You're good with him, she said. Marcus looked over at Liam, who had returned, sticky-fingered and laughing. Kids know who's real. For a long moment, they just sat there, two strangers bound not by romance or obligation, but by something quieter and deeper, trust. Respect. Maybe even the flicker of belonging. Rachel exhaled, a long breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "I didn't expect today to end like this," she said. Marcus smiled again, softer this time. "Neither did I." And in the quiet of a small-town ice cream shop, with laughter in the background and stars above, something unspoken passed between them. Something that felt like the beginning of more. The drive back to Rachel's apartment was quiet, not uncomfortable, but heavy with thoughts neither of them knew quite how to speak aloud. The night had grown cooler, and the windows were cracked just enough to let in the breeze. Liam had fallen asleep in the back seat, his head tilted to one side, his arms wrapped around his dinosaur plush like it was the only thing keeping the world steady. Rachel parked under the dim glow of the streetlight, the engine ticking softly as it cooled. Marcus looked back at Liam, then at Rachel, his expression gentle. "Thanks again," she said, voice low, as if afraid to wake the boy. "Not just for the car. For everything tonight." He nodded. "I didn't do much." She turned toward him, eyes searching. "You don't see it, do you? You changed everything. You showed up when no one else did." There was a silence then, heavy and loaded with all the things unspoken. Marcus glanced away, uncomfortable with praise. He didn't see himself as a hero. He just did what needed to be done. But Rachel saw him. Not just the man who fixed her car. The man who listened. Who smiled at her son like he mattered. Who didn't treat her like a burden or a project, but simply as a person worth showing up for. She looked down at her hands in her lap. Her voice cracked slightly when she spoke again. "I know this is going to sound completely crazy, and maybe it is, but," she trailed off, took a breath, then looked up at him. "Do you want to be my son's father?" Marcus froze. For a moment, the question just hovered there, impossible and deeply human. He blinked, like he was trying to process what he'd heard, if he'd heard it right at all. Rachel rushed to explain, her words tumbling. "I'm not asking for marriage. I'm not saying you owe us anything. I just saw the way Liam looked at you. The way you looked at him. I've never seen him connect with someone that fast. And I haven't connected with anyone in years. You don't have to say yes. I just..." Marcus held up a hand, not to stop her, but gently. "Rachel," he said softly, "that's the kindest question anyone's ever asked me." His voice was thick now, barely holding steady. He stared at the dashboard for a moment, trying to pull himself together. He hadn't expected tonight to matter. But somehow, in just a few hours, he felt more needed, more seen, than he had in years. "I don't know what I'm supposed to be," he admitted. "But I know I want to be around. For him. For you. If that's okay." Rachel's eyes brimmed with tears. She reached over and took his hand. "Yeah," she whispered. "That's more than okay." They sat there for a long time, the three of them in a sleeping car under a quiet sky, with nothing but the sound of breathing and the feeling that something broken had just begun to heal. Sunlight poured over the park like warm honey, casting a soft glow on everything it touched. The trees swayed gently in the morning breeze, and children's laughter echoed across the open field. It was one of those perfect Saturdays that made you forget the weight of the week, and for Rachel, it felt like the first truly peaceful moment in years. She sat on a picnic blanket spread across the grass, unpacking sandwiches and juice boxes with practiced care. Liam darted back and forth between the swing set and the slides, his energy endless, his smile brighter than the sun. But what made her heart ache, in the best way, was who stood behind him. Marcus. He was pushing Liam on the swing, steady hands guiding the rhythm, his face lit with the kind of joy that couldn't be faked. Every time Liam swung back, he let out a giggle, calling out, "Higher, Marcus. Higher." And Marcus would laugh, not holding back, not guarding his heart like he once did. It was all there now, on the surface, something that had slowly and gently bloomed between them in the weeks since that night on the roadside. Rachel watched them, overwhelmed by the quiet miracle of it all. Not a whirlwind romance. Not a storybook ending. Just something real. Honest. Two people, and a child, choosing to show up for each other, day by day. Marcus called out, "Okay, little man. Last push, then lunch. Your mom's gonna eat all the cookies." Liam squealed in mock horror and jumped off the swing mid-air, landing in the grass with a thud and a laugh. He ran toward the blanket, arms outstretched. "Save me a sandwich," he yelled, flopping dramatically next to Rachel. She ruffled his hair and handed him a juice box. Marcus followed a moment later, sitting down beside them with a satisfied sigh. He reached into the picnic basket, pulled out a cookie, and handed it to Liam without a word. Rachel looked at him, this man who had appeared from nowhere and changed everything without even trying. He didn't need to say much. His presence was steady, grounding. She leaned slightly against him, and he didn't move away. Just rested his hand gently on hers. Liam munched on his cookie, then turned to Marcus with a thoughtful look. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus smiled. "Of course." Liam hesitated, then said quietly, "Can I call you Dad now?" The question hit like a wave, soft and overwhelming. Marcus didn't answer right away. He looked at Rachel, who nodded through tear-filled eyes, then back at Liam. "Yeah, buddy," he said, his voice cracking. "You can." Liam grinned and leaned into him, small arms wrapping around Marcus's waist. The moment was quiet, sacred, something unspoken but deeply understood. In the background, birds sang and the world kept moving. But for them, time slowed. It was the beginning of something new, not perfect, but real. A family. Formed not by blood, but by love freely given. And that was more than enough.